G'day, I am Mordechai Becher,
And I'm Yoshua Karsh.
and we are going to be discussing trees, more specifically Tu BiShvat, the 15th of the month of Shvat, famously known as the Rosh Hashanah Le'ilanot, the New Year of Trees, or in a song that many of us learnt when we were in kindergarten, and all Israeli children, just about, actually maybe except for Haredim, but pretty much all Israeli kids learned this song in kindergarten, which is uh,
Tu BiShvat higia chag la'ilanot. Tu BiShvat higia chag la'ilanot. Hashemesh pazorachat. Wait, I
Shkedia,
skipped. Ha-
Shkedia Porachat,
Hashkedia porachat. Hashemesh pazorachat. Tziporim berosh kol gag. Something or other, something or
Mevasrot,
other.
or yeah,
Mevasrot et
Mevasrot
bo
Bohachag, yeah.
Et bohachag, Tu BiShvat higia. Yes.
So
So
basically,
that
that
was
was, yeah,
you.
yeah.
It's okay that I didn't entirely get it, even though I have the words right in front of me, because it's been a long time since kindergarten.
And kindergarten was a long time, yeah. And
Yes.
and basically it says that the almond tree blossoms, the birds on every roof telling us that the sun is going to be shining and the festival of trees is coming and we should all plant trees. And you were telling me something about the history of that
Oh,
song,
yeah. So this song was composed in 1923, and
about when we were
apparently
in kindergarten, approximately about the same, yeah. Okay, okay.
just a
Tad before. Tad before.
tad bit before. And so it was apparently it became a kind of standard of the movement to plant trees in Israel at that time. That became a huge push to plant trees. I think a lot of people that come now assume that Israel always looked like it does, just forests and forests and forests. And a lot of that has to do with the people who thought about planting trees early on. So, because we're just briefly talking about how did it become what it became, and so in other words, this it it, it has become more and more elaborately celebrated to Bishvat, and that maybe this is one of the factors that it became a kind of popularized through the song and through the notion of planting trees in Israel as a kind of as a reflection of a person's Jewish connection to Israel,
Well,
maybe.
I don't know. I think there's like probably two components to the popularity. There's the old time popularity
Yeah,
in Israel, and
yeah.
that's connected very much, as you said, after the destruction of the Second Temple and the exile of the Jews and the wars with the Romans, Israel was completely deforested. It was a barren landscape that, as Mark Twain put it, you could barely imagine it sustaining life. And then when we started coming back to Israel, the Jews started returning to Israel in the 19th century and early 20th century, one of the major plans, focuses of the early pioneers and settlers of Israel was to reforest the land of Israel and to make it green again, right? Make Israel green again. I think was the slogan.
Miga,
And
miga.
meager, right? And they were very successful. They planted forests and all
Yeah,
over the
I
place,
think people would call it a green country.
very
I
much
think,
so.
yeah.
And actually, what's interesting is that I read a statistic that Israel was, I think, the only country in the world to have entered the 21st century with a net increase in the total amount of trees. In most countries, they're cutting down trees.
To
Israel's
make
planting
room.
trees,
Yeah,
right?
cool.
And trees, as we know, the best solution, as far as I can understand from my minimum grasp of climatology, for global warming is an
Yes.
abundance of trees.
Yes.
which convert the carbon dioxide into oxygen, which cool down the atmosphere and the earth, which provide habitation for animals and food and vegetation. It's unbelievable. Trees are an
Yes.
amazing thing, and so
Yes.
there's this passion in Israel about the planting of trees and the building, and even to this day, people all over. There's groups that will plant trees. You get a bar mitzvah certificate from JNF, Jewish National Fund, and that a tree was planted in your name, etc., etc.
Right.
And so it is a big deal in Israel in the love for the land, which, as you know, Israeli government offices and private companies will often, you'll often see a sign that closed for a tiul. They've gone on a hike. They literally have gone on a hike.
That
So
is
they will close a government office or something like that because and a lot of companies have annual hikes. Hiking is a big deal in Israel, and the Gemara
yes.
says if you walk 4 cubits in the land of Israel, you have acquired a portion in the world to come. I mean, there is something about walking
Yes.
in the holy land of Israel
Yes.
and planting trees there, and so there's a mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Israel, which is making Israel. The Ramban, when he talks about the mitzvah of living in Israel, he divides it into more or less 3 components. There is the mitzvah of living there, the mitzvah of owning the land, that Jews should own it, and the third is making it a more habitable place.
Nice.
So I think planting a tree there, even if you're not living there, I think, and especially if you
You're
are,
taking part of the mitzvah.
that's certainly Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. It's making Israel. There's an amazing Chassam Soifer in his commentary on Sukkah, Gemara Sukkah. The Chassam Soifer says that, the famous argument Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So
Yes.
Rabbi
About
Shimon Bar
work.
Yochai says only learn Torah. Rabbi Yishmael says Torah in derech eretz. You have to do both. Engage in a livelihood and engage in learning Torah, and you'll be successful. The Gemara says most people who followed Rabbi Shmuel were successful. Many
Yeah.
people following Rabbi Shmuel were not successful. It's only for the few. But the
Right.
Chazon Sofer says that which it is permitted to only, or rather, I'm not sure how to put this, that which is appropriate to engage in a livelihood as well as learning Torah only applies in Israel. Because only in Israel are you fulfilling the mitzvah of Yishuv Haaretz, of
Because
settling the
the
land.
assumption was that, because that's the way it's discussed in the Gemara, that livelihood would mean agriculture. You'd be working the land or something connected to, is that it?
I don't know. I think he seems to be saying in a broader, at least he says it in 2 places, but I think in a broader understanding, he seems to be saying that the idea of engaging in a livelihood as well as learning is an Israel thing. Because the livelihood in Israel, if you build a falafel store, you've
Right.
made the land more inhabitable. If you
Is that
pave a
mitzvah?
road,
You're saying that? You're
yeah,
saying that
I'm
you
saying that if
you
you
would
pave a
fulfill the
road,
mitzvah of Yishuv. I get the pave the road part, but I want to go back to the falafel stand. You're saying if
absolutely. Why not? You open a kosher restaurant in Israel, have you not made the land more inhabitable? You open a supermarket, you open a suit factory, right? All these are making, to inhabit a land, you can't just have agriculture. You got to
yes.
live somewhere, you got
Okay.
to wear something, you got to, I mean, I think all of that is included. And the
Okay.
Chazon Sofer implies that. So, which means this idea of only learning, people who, that's it, just kollel, learn forever, right? That only, according to the Chazon Sofer, that's only okay outside of Israel.
Uh-huh.
In Israel, you're supposed to engage in the making of this land, of that land, that land, right? A better country, a better place to live. It's unbelievable. So I think the planting of the trees is part of that
Well,
whole
if
Israeli
you're
culture.
gonna extend it to that place, wouldn't having children in the land of Israel be a part of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael?
I don't think so. Not if you don't provide
Falafel
them.
stores you're just all excited about, but having children you don't think builds up the country?
That would depend. If you are providing them a livelihood and a means of earning a livelihood, then you are indeed building up the country. If you
Don't
are
they come
turning them
born?
into
Don't
people
they
who will
come
be
born with bread?
begging for money in
What
Israel and
is the
outside of
Gemara?
Israel,
What
I'm
is
not
the
sure how that's
Chazal?
building up the country.
I forget the Chazal that says every child is born with bread in his basket or something. What is the Chazal? There's something like that. You don't have to worry about the livelihood of your children.
In practice, you do. The Gemara, the Mishnah
It
says
does make
you're supposed to teach your child a trade, and if you don't teach him a trade, you're teaching him to steal.
Yes.
So now teaching him a trade is to teach him how to make a livelihood. That means you're responsible to do that.
Yeah.
So, but either way,
where did Rameir live?
Off topic,
where did Rameir live, according to you? Where did Rameir live?
Reb Meir, who said, I will only teach my son Torah.
Yes.
Reb Meir lived in Israel.
Yes, he did.
But notice that he's arguing in the Mishnah with Reb Nehorai.
But I thought that's him.
Who says you have to teach your child a trade. So the commentaries ask, the Gemara in Eruvin says Reb Nehorai and Reb Meir are the same person.
Right.
So is he arguing with himself? No. He's saying that for the few, it's okay.
But you're still seeing it's okay.
It's not. It should not be a widespread public policy. It should be something which the most unique and talented individuals will do, like Reb Meir.
Okay, but he's doing it in Eretz Yisrael. So you agree that the few, the brave, the strong, that those people can be in Eretz Yisrael.
Well, the Chassan Sofer is saying that argument, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai and Rabbi Shmuel, is only in Israel. In other words,
right? But you were implying that according to Chassan Sofer, it would be inappropriate for somebody to be learning all day.
View. Yeah, I should have made that clear. Rabbi Shmuel's view would be inappropriate. Okay. Outside of Israel, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, yeah.
Okay, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai is good in Israel.
Yeah. So one aspect which made Tu BiShvat very popular, especially in Israel, is the whole passion that people in Israel have for the land, for the agriculture, for the trees. There's a beautiful Reb Shimshon Raphael Hirsch in his commentary on the Siddur. We say on Yom Tov, I think, Galinu me'artzeinu
v'nisrachaknu
me'al admaseinu, which means Galinu me'artzeinu means we've been exiled from our land. V'nisrachaknu me'al admaseinu, we've been distanced from our soil. He says, what's the difference? Isn't that repetitious? Sounds repetitious. So he says this, Galinu me'artzeinu means we've been exiled from the land of Israel. He says, as a result of that, nisrachaknu me'al admaseinu, we don't have a feeling of connection to our land, to the earth. He said, we've become urbanized, right? Most Jews wouldn't recognize a fruit tree, right? Unless you walked into it, or unless, like in our neighborhood, in the beginning of Nisan, people with fruit trees in their gardens put a sign on it, fruit tree, you can make a bracha on this. So he says the part of the result of being exiled is we no longer feel an attachment to the soil. But thank God, we've recovered that to some degree. A lot of Israelis, there are Jews who are farmers, ranchers,
and the teal
gardens,
those teulim that you were talking about.
Yeah, so there's a beautiful.
The purpose component of the teulim is to feel a love for the land.
And I think we've come back to the admaseinu. There's an appreciation for the earth, for the soil.
Right.
There's something
the greening,
very beautiful.
The pride that we take in the greening of the land, the greening of the desert.
Yeah.
We take a lot of pride in it. Drip technology.
Yeah.
A lot of Jews take pride in that.
My son was just telling me, like 2 weeks ago, one of my sons, that he and his kids they live on a moshav. It's an agricultural settlement near Ramat Beit Shemesh, and they went foraging for herbs, and they found fresh herbs, and they cooked with it. They made a recipe with it. So
seriously,
that's awesome. I went with him when I was there, not last time, but 2 times ago. They have a neighbor with olive trees, and it was the olive season. So I went with my son and grandson, and we shook branches of the olive tree with a tarp underneath.
Now, you cannot eat olives off the tree.
Correct. Yeah. So we first of all shook them onto the tarp, and then brought them back to his house in buckets. He and his wife then checked them for bugs, chucking out the ones which looked like they had a hole in them. He then put them in brine, cleaned them, and put them in brine in order to, I don't know what that does. It
Pickles
softens
them.
them and sweets. It pickles them. That's right,
Yeah,
really pickles
yeah,
them. And then you can eat them. They're delicious.
right. But you
So it's
cannot,
very much,
I was surprised by that. You cannot
no,
eat a raw olive.
very bitter.
Yeah.
But there's a beauty in that. Doing
Yes.
that with my son and grandson
Yeah.
in the land of Israel,
Yeah.
harvesting an olive tree, like
Yeah.
wow, wow. So that's part of Tu BiShvat. There's another aspect which is the current trend of neo Hasidism and neo Kabbalist, neo mysticism. There's a
The
very
Seder.
That's right. Yeah, a lot of people have gotten into Kabbalistic ideas, whether they understand and misunderstand and distort them, or can't even pronounce the Hebrew of them, or not, whatever. But there is a popularity, with good reason, for a lot of beautiful mystical ideas,
Right.
and people
I
have got into it
attended
for that.
one. I attended one last year. My friend Ari Siegel hosted it, and I was surprisingly moved by it. I went to be polite initially, but I was surprisingly moved by it. It somehow achieved a result where I left feeling very connected to Eretz Yisrael, to
That's
the land.
beautiful. So
Yeah,
it did what it's
somehow.
supposed to do.
And there was 4 cups of wine, which I'm not sure if that helped or what, but I think that was part of it. I
Well,
think
there
that
is
might have
not
been part
only
of it.
amazing Israeli wine, but Israel produces now single malt whiskey, award-winning single malt whiskies.
Now, when you say award winning,
Yeah,
have you ever heard of any of these before you see the governing body or whoever gives the award?
right.
It's, have you ever heard of these governing bodies before you see it on the label?
No, I have not. No, I
Have
will
you
admit.
ever
No.
researched to find out that the wine company or the single malt whiskey does not own the award
Well,
that they bestowed?
I did see one
Yes,
of the award ceremonies, which was
you did.
in Glasgow, Scotland. I saw it on a video, Glasgow, Scotland, and it was some international whiskey tasting thing, and they did blind tasting,
Yeah.
and M&H Milk and Honey whiskey of Israel, made in I mean Tel Aviv, was won the best tasting whiskey in the world.
Are
So
you kidding
I'm
me?
not. I'm quite serious. Yeah, quite serious. And there's a few brands of Israeli whiskey which are just phenomenal, and they're locally made, and the climate affects it. There's one which is matured in the Dead Sea region. There's one matured up in the Golan Heights,
There's no
and
peat, right? There's no peat in Israel.
no,
Like you
no,
don't get like that kind of
I
peaty,
don't think so. No, no, that you don't have. But
smoky thing.
yeah, so I think it's beautiful that the Tu BiShvat Seder has become popular. I personally do it with the fruits Israel's blessed with, Bisli, Krembo, Mekupelet,
How do you eat your crembo?
Odd Kapit,
There's there's different
mm,
there's
top
different
down.
theories
Yeah.
about some people just pull off the chocolate first and just eat the chocolate around the marshmallow,
Yes.
right? You
Very
really
popular.
should. But then there's a question: do you make a Mazonos on that, or is it just a Geschmacka holder? I
I think
mean,
it's just a
what is
holder.
it?
Yeah, that's in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so getting to Tu BiShvat again. Well, so traditionally, what is Tu BiShvat is the Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah tells us there's four beginnings of the Jewish year, each one for different halachic reasons, to count documents for kings, to count the years, for the festivals, and so on and so forth. So the one of them, according to um, uh, Shammai, the house of Shammai, the first of Shvat is the new year for trees, and Beit Hillel says it's the 15th. So there are a number of ramifications to that. The first is tithes. So the Torah says you're supposed to give tithes from the fruit, and so we are told that the cut-off date, it's like the tax date. So you have to give for each year. The cutoff date for giving tithes for a tree is Tu BiShvat. So just more specifically, if the tree has buds on it before Tu BiShvat, before the 15th of Shvat, whatever fruit it grows from those buds, even if it's a couple of months later, belongs to last year. And you give Maaser tithes from the last year. If the buds appear after Tu BiShvat, it goes by the next year. So, in other words, it depends on the budding of the tree. So I remember Rav Moshe Shapiro discussing that once. That with vegetables, the time that you take tithes from vegetables is when it's large enough to harvest. That's what determines the tithing season or year. When it comes to fruit, all you have to see is a bud on the tree, and already that's considered like the fruit's there, which is fascinating. So Rav Moshe Shapiro, quoting, I don't remember if it was the Ramban or the Ritva, but one of the Rishonim on the page, Rav Moshe quoted that, why is that so? He said, because the Gemara says that most of rain which will fall that season has fallen by Tu BiShvat. And the tree absorbs nutrients, water, and it stores it in the sap. Which means once you see a bud, all the energy and nutrients needed for the fruit are already there in the tree.
It's moving. Do they acknowledge a dormant period where the sap is not moving in the tree?
Yeah,
and so that's an indication of the sap moving, it's moved.
Yes,
it's woken
that's right.
Up,
but the reason you can consider the fruit already there is because everything you need for the fruit's in the tree. All you need is sunlight now. So the tree is like storing up the energy, storing up the nutrients, and by Tu BiShvat, if there's a bud, bam, the fruit's already there. With vegetables, it's what you see is what you get. No storage system. The nutrients go straight into the vegetable.
It's not a separate. Oh, I see.
So as soon as it's large enough to harvest, that's when it's considered tithing. So based on that, Rav Moshe said an amazing idea. He said that's why a righteous person is compared to a tree, and the evil person is compared to like herbs and grass. Right? Ve'yatzitzu rashoim k'mo esev. The evil appear like herbs, grass. Tzaddik, a righteous, katamar yifrach, is like a palm, a date palm. So Rav Moshe said, because the Rasha lives for the here and now. It's like the vegetable. The tzaddik, the righteous, understands the idea of storage, restraint, keeping it in, and using it at the appropriate time.
Does this remind you of that principle, the Gemara principle of kol haroi lebila, that there are certain acts that need to technically take place, but as long as it could take place, we already consider it as if it had taken place to some degree?
This, I think, is much more than that. This is something which everything, it's there. You consider the fruit's there because all the necessary components are there.
It's technically not a fruit yet.
Right.
But it's going to be a fruit, but it's not
correct.
A fruit yet.
Interesting comparison. I didn't think of it that way. Maybe I don't know. But then Rav Moshe added to that something very beautiful. So the righteous person compared to the tree, because the righteous person understands the idea of storage, restraint, bringing it out things at their appropriate time. Evil inclination is all about the here and now. That's why there's a Gemara where Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says that who was talking to Antoninus maybe, who said, when does the evil inclination enter the fetus, enter the person? When it's in utero or at birth? So he brought two proofs. One textual, because it says lepeta chatas roivets, sin crouches at the door, at the entrance. That's when it's in. And the second logic he gives is, if the evil inclination would be in the fetus, in utero, it would never go through full pregnancy. Hayamava'et v'yotze, it would kick and leave.
Like Esav.
It's a strange thing. So the Maharal explains because the existence of the fetus is not for the here and now at all. The fetus only exists for the future. Whereas the Yetzer Hara only exists for the here and now. So the evil inclination and the fetus cannot exist in the same world, in the same environment, because one exists only for the future, the other exists only for the now. And Rav Moshe also used that to explain an interesting linguistic difference in Western culture and Torah. Right? He said the Rishon is based on a posuk in Eov, and the Ramban talks about it in the Chumash. They refer to youth as Yemei Churfi, which means the days of my winter.
Yeah.
Now, in English literature, winter is a reference to old age, and youth is spring or summer. I think there's some sonnets of Shakespeare and maybe Leaves of Grass. Walt Whitman, is it? Yeah, talks about.
No. Leaves of Grass is Walt Whitman.
Walt Whitman?
Not Emerson, right? Emerson.
No, it's Whitman. Whitman.
Yeah, it's Whitman.
Yeah. So, in any case, why is it that in Western thought, old age is winter, and in Jewish thought, old age is youth is winter? So he says because winter is the time of absorption of nutrients and storage for the appropriate time. He says, when do you harvest it? In Jewish thought, we harvest it in old age. When do you harvest it? In the produce that you have produced, whether it be Torah, whether it be charity, whether it be children and grandchildren, whether it be relationships. That's when you're harvesting. When do you harvest all that? Old age. So old age is spring and summer. Youth is winter when you're absorbing. If, however, you come from the perspective of life being about consumption and harvesting, when can you consume the most? When you're a youth.
Yeah.
Hence, youth is spring and summer. Old age is winter. That's how Rav Moshe looked at it. That's the whole tree idea.
But he also, I remember him talking about how during the winter, and this is the case with almost all of life, begins undercover, because it's very vulnerable in the beginning. It begins undercover, behind a shell if it's an egg, or underground if it's a plant, etc. So it's the most important initial phase is happening out of sight. And so that in some ways could also be a model for youth, that it's your youth are those years. And eventually when you start to show your fruit, that is going to be later on. It's going to be the fruit of the work that went into it up until then, something like that.
Interesting. Rav Shlomo Fisher in Beis Yishai says something similar. He talks about the tree having three components: the shoresh, the roots, the gezer, the trunk, and the anafim, the branches. He says the shoroshim, which for everything starts, are very much undercover. They're underground. You don't see the roots, but they grow and supply. The primary, the essence of the tree is the trunk. That's very visible, etc. And from the trunk comes all the various branches, leaves, and fruits. So he compares that to 3 times in the human being. He says youth is like the shoroshim, the where the roots, where it's indeed undercover to some degree, not well known. Right. He says your middle part of your life is the trunk, where if that's strong, everything is strong, right? And if that grows, everything will grow. And then from that towards the end are the branches and the fruits, etc. He says history is like that as well. He talks about the Torah, Tanakh, Mishnah, Gemara. He says Tanakh are like the roots.
Nice.
He says the Mishnah is like the trunk, and the Gemara is like the branches and fruits that come out of that. He also says you can see history also in terms of Geonim. The Geonim who are like the roots We don't know the names of a lot of Gaonim, but they were producing and they were produced, and what they produced, the trunk was the Rishonim, the medieval scholars, the Rambam, the Rashba, Rashi, the Baalei Tosfos. That's like the trunk. And he says the Acharonim, the later scholars, are like the branches and the leaves and the fruits that come out of that.
Nice,
And
nice.
he has numerous analogies for this idea, which just is an entire drosha on it. It's his drosha on Tu BiShvat, where he talks about this idea, and just it's very interesting. He says, yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
apropos of that, the other aspect of the tree is that is that it's also Tu BiShvat also designates the year regarding Orla, which is when does the tree with the 3 years you can't eat from the fruit of the first 3 years. So Orla is defined as the year ends at Tu
Now,
BiShvat.
how does it work? Did it have to take root before Tisha B'Av? Is that how?
At Tu
So
BiShvat, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
if it took root, because I remember planting a lemon tree, and that was a consideration, that if I planted it I don't know, a few weeks or a month before Tu BiShvat, then that would be year one. And once Tu BiShvat happens, that's already year two.
Yeah, correct.
So, and that's the effect. So you could have like, uh, obviously you could end up having a fruit which is really basically 2 years old,
Relatively
two and a
young. Yeah,
little bit, and
correct.
quite young. Yeah,
Yeah.
if it
Yeah.
was done like that. I once went apple picking somewhere in Illinois, and I asked one of the guys who worked there if they had any fruit younger than 3 years. Do they have apples? And he pointed to places where the apples are under, because you don't think that that they would that it could produce it that quickly or something that would be edible. But
Right.
yeah, I mean a
Outside
lot.
of
Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead.
but
Yeah.
outside of Israel, the halacha is that if it's a doubt, you can eat. You don't have to.
Right.
You don't have to check. Like
Right.
you go
Now, I
to.
wasn't doing it to
Oh, I'm
mess
saying
up.
okay.
Man, I wasn't trying to mess it up. I was just curious what it looked like. Oh yeah,
Right.
I'm
Got it.
sorry, because that could
Yeah.
sound like now this is somehow putting into question our fruit. So I'm glad you pointed that out. I
Yeah.
wasn't trying to do that. I was just trying
No,
to.
no.
I was
I
just
get that.
asking
I get
because
that.
I didn't think what could they produce anyways? Like, what are you worried
Right.
about? And then he showed me actual, apples.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so why Tu BiShvat? Why the 15th of Shvat? So the Gemara and Rashi seem to understand that it's because in Israel by Tu BiShvat most of the rain that will have fallen that winter or that season has fallen by then. The Meiri says it's the midpoint of winter. It's halfway through winter. It's a middle point between the seasons of fall and spring. So once half the winter has passed, the strength of winter is weakened, the cold is not as intense. Although looking outside my window today, although I'm in New Jersey, not in Israel, so in Israel it's different. So the cold is not as intense, the fruit begins to form more rapidly. So there are agricultural reasons for this. So how do we celebrate it? So you were mentioning this Tu BiShvat Seder. That's
Yeah.
there's a Magen Avraham who in Shulchan Aruch who says it's a custom to eat specifically fruits on Tu BiShvat. I remember my father Alav Shalom telling me his family lived in Poland. They were all murdered in the Holocaust, and but they were type of middle class, and they used to his father, my grandfather, used to somehow obtain a crate of oranges from Israel every Tu BiShvat.
Really?
Yeah, they would get imported. Apparently, I think it must have cost a reasonable amount.
Yeah.
And they used to have that on Tu BiShvat, oranges from the land of Israel.
We, for some reason, always had carob.
Yes, that's a thing to have. Yeah, carob, which doesn't taste great.
Does not.
No.
Tastes like leather.
Yeah. We also don't say tachanun. We do not say the prayer of penitence. So it's a happy day. You're not supposed to have a fast. We don't proclaim a fast day on Tu BiShvat. So there is some, it's not, a full-fledged festival, but,
Yeah.
we eat fruit. We don't say tachnun. It's a great pleasure. It's one of my son-in-law mentioned to me that there are certain pleasures that only Jews can have. I said, like what? He said, going to shul and realizing in the morning that there's no tachanun today. There's no, like especially a Monday or a Thursday. So it says that's a delight. That only we can appreciate, or realizing that wait, I'm not fleischig. I can have dairy. Right. Most of the world's population will never experience a pleasure like that.
Yes.
There's something to be said for that.
You also said there's some kind of phrase, if the feeling of having davened.
Oh,
What was that?
that
How
was
does it
from the
go?
Rosh Yeshiva of Shar Yoshuv, Rav, famous Rosh Yeshiva of Shar
Freifeld?
Yoshuv. Huh?
Rabbi Freifeld?
Rabbi
Freifeld.
Freifeld. He once said, "What's the definition of a happy Jew?" So he said, the definition of a happy Jew is shoin gedavent, shoin gebenched und parv, meaning you've prayed, you've already said grace afternoon, birkat hamazon, you've already benched, and you're parv. He says there is no greater moment of joy than that because the whole world is open possibilities. You've davened, you're parv, you can eat anything. You've benched, you have to, like it's ultimate joy. I think he might have been being a little bit ironic, sarcastic.
You think so? You think
Could
so?
be.
Possible.
I think there's
Possible.
truth to it. There's truth to it. So anyway, it is customary also. We eat the fruits that Israel is blessed with. We mentioned, of course, krembo, but in the Torah itself, we have the 7 fruits of Israel: wheat, barley, grapes, figs, pomegranates, olives, and dates.
No almonds in that list.
Interesting, yes, even though the song is almonds.
Yes, he chose almonds for some
Almonds
reason.
are the first trees to blossom generally. That's why in Hebrew, shaked is almond, but the word shaked also means I will be diligent and quick. Right? When Hashem asks Yirmiyahu, the prophet Jeremiah, I think 31, he says, Ma ataro'eh Yirmiyahu, what do you see? He sees the boiling cauldron, and he also sees that's trouble coming from the north. He also says, Makel shaked ani ro'eh, I see the branch of an almond. And Hashem says, Ki shaked ani al dvarai la'asoisoi. I'm going to be diligent, right, to do it.
Right.
So I think that's because
But you have a
Yirmiyahu.
You have a Yirmiyahu reference. You also have Aaron's mata, which blossoms
Almonds
into a shaked.
Yeah.
So you would think that it would be. You could hear why somebody would prominently.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Bring them because you have these very biblical roots for this thing.
Right.
But
there are other fruits that Israel's blessed with, like sabra.
Yeah.
Oranges.
When's
mangoes,
the last time you had a sabra?
Persimmons.
When was the last time you had a sabra?
Last time I had a sabra was not long ago, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I have not had one since I was like a teenager.
Oh, I've had sabra.
It's not the kind of thing that comes up a lot.
I think Rosh Hashanah. I think we had sabra Rosh Hashanah.
They used to have these Arab women who sat like on the street with like a basket of sabra, and somehow their hands were so leathery that they could like hold the fruit. Didn't matter to them. They'd peel it for you and give it to you. Anytime I would touch it, I would get 1,000 little prickers in my hands.
It is prickly. Hence it's called the prickly pear, I think.
Yes. And the fruit that is used as the great symbol of the Israeli, the sabra.
Right. So anyway, but yeah, there is sanctity to the fruit of Israel. We know we say a special bracha on those fruits, the after blessing, right? The lengthy after blessing on those fruits, and if they're actually from Israel, we would actually type of say that in the grammar of the blessing for eating. That we bless God for the land and its fruits, peiroseho, its fruits. So there is something to be said for eating those fruits. I personally like to buy things from Israel just because I want to support the state of Israel. I want
But
to support the Jews of the land of Israel. So I try to buy things which are Israeli.
that does create halachic issues. But before we get into this, just one thing about the persimmon. Is Shemen Afarsamon
No,
connected at all to the persimmon?
no, it's not. No, it's a different, no, different
So
tree.
is that a modern Hebrew
Yeah, I think so.
word, you think,
I think so.
Afarsamon,
Yeah.
the connection?
Yeah.
Okay, and then question number two is, does that not create all manner of halachic issues? Because how do you know that the fruit had Trumas and was taken from it? And
Ah,
how do you know if it was from Shemitah or all those kind of questions?
well, regarding Shemitah, so you have to know the years and you have to check it out. And Tnuva does keep track of that. That's the major agricultural exporter in Israel. It's possible to find out. As far as
Uh,
taking tithes, so we have membership in something called Keren HaMaisros, which is the Maser Fund in Israel, and they have they have special designated coins where you can
Pruta Chamura.
Pruta Chamura designated coins, and they keep them there. You pay it's not that much, like $30 a year or something like that, and we get a little card. And my wife, when she buys stuff at Costco, which is from Israel, and we do try to buy from Israel, she just takes Trumas and Maasros. She takes the Trumas and Maasros and follow the instructions on the card and says the appropriate declaration, and bingo.
So do you think there should be a warning on this particular podcast? Do not do this at home. This is
Do
only
this at
done
home.
by a professional on a closed circuit.
I think you should ask your local rabbi how to do it, and I don't think you should not buy it because of that. Right? I think you should, on the contrary, ask your LOR, local Orthodox rabbi, right, and do it this way. A, you are supporting the Jews of the land of Israel. B, you are eating fruit which has got the sanctity and the holiness of the land of Israel. Right? C, you are quasi performing at least the rabbinic uh, commandment of taking tithes, etc. I think it's a beautiful, right? It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Why would you not want to do that? I don't, you know. So it's a good thing to do for Tu BiShvat. And there are other great stuff. I mean, the Israeli wine is just fantastic, just
Yes,
superb,
that I
superb. I'm
agree.
not going to advertise any particular brand, but they're all superb. Just
Do you know,
yeah.
it dawned on me when I was with a group that visited one of these wineries and did a wine tasting. That's become a kind of touristy thing to do where you
Hmm.
go to these wines. So it dawned on me what an incredible sales technique it is, because we tend to not pay attention when we eat and drink. And and therefore we don't really recognize the fullness of the flavor or the aroma of anything because we're not even paying attention. We're just, putting it in our mouth, who knows what we're, etc. But they get you to relax. They get you to take in the aroma fully. You're focused completely on the bouquet, and then you're focused entirely on the various qualities in the this it could be the simplest, least impressive wine, but the fact that you just paid attention,
Yes,
it's such a
it
great
is.
technique.
But it's also a great technique for achieving greater happiness and gratitude. And Rabbi
Yes,
Levi says that's one of the purposes of brachas.
yes,
One of the purposes of blessings before you eat is to pay attention and think about the blessing and think about that is to say God's blessing to you that you have
right,
this and the enjoyment and that you could have not had it and you
right.
have it. And he said when you do that you'll be a happier, better person. And
I had a
right,
group that we did a meditative brach. I've done this many times,
I
but
was I
like
was at it.
yeah,
I was at it
yeah.
when
Oh,
you
that's
did it
right.
once.
That one, yeah. So I've done a bunch of times a meditative bracha where you have an apple and you think about it beforehand. You talk a little about the bracha. You think about the apple, where it came from, etc. I remember the first time I did it with a group years ago. It dawned on me because we agreed to just eat the apple sort of in silence, just sort of to pay attention to to everything about the apple. And I realized that it's not simply to have a moment of gratitude before I eat, but it to for it to then eat with gratitude. In other words, the whole thing can become an experience of gratitude. Yeah,
absolutely. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little hero worship here, but I
yeah,
remember Moshe Shapiro when someone would bring him a coffee,
yeah.
and his bracha on the coffee, I just felt was something I would love to hear, and I would like to. I
I had
like
this
to see that.
a while back. You remember when he would have tea, if he could, he would have like a spoonful of honey.
Yes,
And he'd make the broth on the honey, and then he'd eat the honey first, and then he'd drink the tea. So I remember wondering if he did that because of the bracha achrona. I wasn't sure. And I asked the Kiva Tats about it, and he goes, no, he just
he
likes
likes the
honey.
honey.
I had this whole deep thing about it that he was doing it
You
for
write
the
a
bracha
shear on the
achrona and
subject.
everything.
V'ra'isi Moiri v'Reb. Yeah, so, yeah. Okay. I think we've covered a reasonable amount of the part of it.
Oh wait, one thing.
Yes.
What the machlokas Hill and Shammai? Why
Mm.
why is there? Is it significant? Is there something underlying their opinions that represent a significant difference in view, or is it a technical difference between Hill
I
and
always
Shammai?
understood it as technical, but I'm sure there is something deeper behind it. I did not actually have a chance to look into that.
I'm
Um,
sorry.
we're snowed under here, and there was time spent then instead of investigating, shoveling snow.
You're
So,
not supposed to shovel snow.
are you not?
No,
Well,
not at your age.
you're from Milwaukee, so
No, you are not supposed to shovel snow at your age. I don't
I
think
wasn't
above
doing a lot,
50.
just doing a little bit.
It
Just doing a
doesn't
little.
matter. It's the combination of the cold and the stuff. It's not good. It's dangerous for.
I didn't do a lot. I
I'm
did a
very
very small
mockbit on
amount.
this
Very
thing.
small amount.
I'm extremely mockbit about
Okay,
this thing
that's
of
good.
not shoveling and
No, no. Well,
having
I,
nephews and children and stuff like that shovel because no, but
okay.
seriously, do not shovel anymore.
Thank you.
It's not good for
Okay.
you.
All right.
All right.
Okay, folks.
Okay.
Thank you for watching and listening. And we do get feedback, and we got some interesting emails, and I meet people who give me feedback, and it's always a pleasure. So please press like and share it on social media, and share it through email, whatever, however you share things, and
And if
subscribe to Torah
anybody
anytime. Yeah.
if anybody has listened to earlier podcasts and remembers any of the details from them, I had a rant. I had a rant about something that always comes up on Tu BiShvat. It was, I don't remember how it was, I feel it was fairly early, that particular rant about Autumn Eitz Soda.
Oh
How that
yes.
always comes up. That
I don't remember
always
which
comes
episode
up
that
in
was in.
Divrei Torah. Yes,
You had a rant
about
about people misinterpreting things and
right,
claiming they're pshat when
right. They're not
they're
shot.
a drush, they're not pshat.
Right, right.
Yeah,
So they quote the pasuk as if they're
as
quoting
if yes,
a literal shot reading of the pasuk,
correct.
as if the Torah is saying, yes, a man is a tree of the field.
But it's a question.
Yes,
So
it is a
this is a
question.
re-rant.
Yes, not just pointing it out.
It's a
Just
re-rant.
because people deserve, every once in a while kudos if they remember something from an earlier
Right.
podcast.
Yeah.
So for
So
you
yeah.
people who remembered that,
Yeah.
I'm
Put in a
mentioning it now.
comment. You could put in a comment on
Yes.
there's two ways to comment. You can comment on Torah anytime, and you can comment on YouTube. Either way, you can comment. So please do. And watch, share, subscribe, do whatever is necessary, short of hurting someone. Although, okay, yeah, short of hurting someone. So,
And you could send us your thoughts about the
yes,
Machlokas
please
Hill and
do.
Shammai,
Please do.
about
Yes.
Hill and Shammai, any deep
If anyone, yeah,
something or other you've
good
got
to
on
hear.
that.
Okay. Thank you very
Okay.
much. Have a wonderful Tu BiShvat, everyone. Chag Ha'ilanot Sameach, hug a tree.